so much, everyone. You are all welcome to today's session. Without further ado, I'm just going to call on Seun Fumi to give us the opening remarks so that we can jump straight to the session. All right, Seun Fumi, please, you have the floor. Thank you so much.
Okay, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Good morning, in case you're joining us from the other side of the world. Trust the session meets you well. You're welcome once again to this very important discourse. My name is Seun Fumi Ogunbure. So on this particular occasion, I am not a member of Sci-Fi. I'm here as co-founder of the Mindset Transformation and Aid Organization. We are a community development agency that connects local communities to development solutions. So we function in the following areas that includes basic education, sustainable livelihood, primary healthcare, and civil rights. So civil rights sort of ties into all of them. So you're welcome once again. So today we're talking about silent voices. So if this is the first time you're joining us, you're welcome. You're in the right place, and we are confident that your time here would not be a waste, and it's going to be something that after now, you would be willing and driven to take it up, right? And drive it further within your own space, in your community, in your organization, in your circle of influence, right? And we hope and we pray that God helps you, really. So the Silent Voices project was birthed out as a group initiative, right? Out as mandated by a program we just completed known as the Carrington Youth Fellowship Program, initiative by the U.S. Consulate in Lagos, where that it brings together about 300 or thereabout young people, young leaders from different spheres of life and work, and charge them to come up with a solution to a critical issue in the society that has not been addressed, right? And out of the myriads of issues that we have out there, we stumbled on this particular one, which is the gap that exists between the hearing community and the deaf community in Lagos State. I mean, gone are the days. Everyone here can bear us witness that there is a massive gap between the hearing community and the deaf community in Lagos State, and not even in Lagos State, all across the world. It was a shocking revelation when we read that of the entire global population, about 20%, if I'm not mistaken now, right, has some form, 20% of the world's population, we have some sort of hearing impairment. Right, and that's a massive shock. Like, we have this sort of global issue, and it has not even been declared. There's no sort of declaration. The way you have World Declaration on this, World Declaration on malaria, World Declaration on gender issues and all of that, LGBT and all those things, right? There's so much of that, but nobody is talking about, hearing issues, meaning that almost 1 in 5 persons have one form of hearing impairment or the other, and we are not talking about these things. How about people who live in communities and who are, due to their economic situations, right, they cannot afford the resource, they don't have the resources to afford the medication required, right, to help them treat whatever issues they have. How about early detection of these issues? How about where treatment, what sort of facilities are there, right, in Nigeria, in Lagos, to attend to these issues? And how can this be it's not just, before we can even talk about how it can be cascaded to local communities, is it even available in any of the hospitals? So when we have issues with the little children, with little children, how are these things treated? Because I am so sure that it is not the same treatment that a 60-year-old or a 40-year-old person, right, would require for a hearing impairment, right? This is not the same thing that a baby would require. What are we doing about these things? It is very important. So these are some of the issues that we, and scenarios that really, that drove us to design a project, right? And we titled it, right, What It Is. There are people who ought to speak, who need to speak, there's a need for their voices to be heard, but because of these same challenges, nobody hears them. In fact, we even have some form of disdain against such people in this society. We laugh at them. So it was important for us to deal with this issue and to bridge that gap and to bring to the knowledge of the hearing community that there is such thing, there is such demography, not a thing, excuse me, there is such demography that is known as the deaf community. And we need to be able to communicate with them. So the goal of the project, right, as a starter to resolving and providing, sustainable solution for this challenge, right, was to create, number one, an education and awareness about, these silent voices, the voices that are speaking so loud, but yet nobody hears them. Whoa, man. So you see, everywhere we go to, in every community, in any location, there's at least one deaf person. So it's important for us to strive to be able to not just show care, but show care in action. And one of the ways we can show this care in action is by learning sign language. That is the bottom. That's at the bottom of the pyramid. That's the least anybody can do to ensure that we have a just and inclusive society. Everybody must be a signer. We must be able to communicate in sign language. We must be able to relate in sign language. We must be able to see sign language learning as a skill, not as though we are doing it to empower some people, not because we are trying to show care to some people. It's not, that's beside the point. That's beside the point. That would be very derogatory. You don't study French because you want to, because you are having mercy on French people. You are not studying Mandarin or Portuguese or German because you want to have mercy. There's even a clout that comes with, oh, I can speak French, or I can speak in French rather. So the same thing should apply to signing. We should be able to have sign language as a life skill in our schools. God forbid we have somebody who does not have any form of hearing impairment, but can't communicate with people who have this hearing impairment, right? But they have illicit intents, right? These things are not, evil is not limited to people who can hear alone. Evil can be permeated in different ways. I know it's not popular, but then you can't rule it out. What if the person, we find ourselves in a group or in an environment where, the predominant culture or the predominant situation there is that they are dominated by hearing, and then we have people who have, evil intents, kidnapping or trying to steal or cause harm. And because you don't know how to sign, because you don't even understand sign language, they've done stuff to you. It feels like they're doing abracadabra, right? So we need to work on this. We need to understand that this is a life skill. It is important. And when it's a life skill, that means that our survival depends on it. So as we go into this session, right, I want us to not just listen, but be called to action and then take these classes, not just the basic classes, get onto the advanced classes and even make a life out of it. And let's transform this world and make it an inclusive society. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Fumi. Thank you for that, wonderful opening remark. And if you notice, Fumi, why delivering, his opening remark, you could feel the passion. You could feel that passion for me. I felt like somebody was ready to, who was ready to fight with anybody when it comes to this conversation of sign language. So we feel your passion. We really feel your passion. Thank you so much, Fumi, for that opening remark. So we're going to jump into things very fast, and I'm going to call on Madam Treasures to help us do the signing this time around because who I'll be calling right now is actually helping us to do the signing, and it's no other person than Mr. Samuel James, the chairman of Association of Sign Language Interpreters of Nigeria and Lagos chapter, to do us the honor of delivering the keynote speech for this session. Please, if you know how to use the emojis, please kindly use the emojis and say thank you so much and welcome to Mr. Samuel. If this was to be, a physical event, I would have said, can we stand up and jam my hands together for Mr. Samuel? But please, can you use the emoji to welcome Mr. Samuel to the house? You're welcome, sir. Madam Treasure, please, I would like you to help us with the signing while Samuel, goes on with his keynote speech. Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you for the opportunity, of course, the opportunity to be able to address this distinguished gathering on a topic that is very close to my heart, and that is a world where everyone can sign Nigeria as a case study. So as we come together to commemorate the International Week of Sign Languages, we have a unique opportunity to reflect on the importance of sign language, not just globally, but also within the context of Nigeria. The National Day of Sign Language sign languages celebrated each year serves as a powerful reminder of the linguistic identity and cultural diversity of all deaf individuals and sign language users around the world. With more than 70 million deaf people globally, it's crucial that we understand the significance of sign languages and structurally distinct from spoken language. In our diverse world, we find over 300 different sign languages being used around the world, of course. And these languages are not just tools of communication, but also symbols of cultural heritage. It's a bridges gap. It's worth noting that the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability recognizes sign language as an equal in status to spoken language. So it's not different from spoken language in status. So this recognition carries an obligation for states. This for states to facilitate the learning of sign languages and promote the linguistic identity of the deaf community. We pray and hope for this in our country. This principle aligns with the idea that nothing should be decided about the deaf community without their direct involvement and representation, as emphasized by the principle of nothing about us without us. So within the Nigerian context, our journey towards creating a world where everyone can sign has its own unique challenge and opportunities. The Nigerian Sign Language, as you see, just like every other language worldwide, deserves recognition. So that's why we've been fighting for Nigerian Sign Language to be recognized as a second lingua franca. So within the Nigerian context, our journey towards it has been so for us to recognize it. So in our discussions today, we will explore the importance of early access to sign language and services in sign language. Quality education available in sign language is vital for the growth and development of deaf individuals, and it's critical for achieving national goals. So as we delve into this topic, we'll draw attention to global best practices while tailoring our insights to the Nigerian context. We'll consider the progress made and the challenges we face, and we'll explore how we can work together hand in hand to foster, promote, recognize Nigerian Sign Language as a vibrant, integral part of our linguistic landscape. In conclusion, let us use this occasion to celebrate the unity that sign language brings to the world. Let us reiterate our commitment to ensuring that everyone, regardless of their hearing ability, has the opportunity to sign, to communicate, and to thrive. Together, we can build a world where everyone can sign. Starting right here in Nigeria and starting on this platform. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So my work here is done. Mine is just to probe, to help push for people to, the panelists, to say more about what we have on this topic. So thank you very much for the opportunity, Cypher. Thank you so much, everyone listening. Let's get the ball rolling. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. I must say that you've done justice to this. You know, it's so interesting that you were able to really deliver this in less than about I think 10 minutes or so. And you know, you made I noted some very important points, which I think will be very important for me to kind of write it for those who are also joining us. You said that sign language is not actually different from the spoken language, in status. I'm sure that some of us might think, oh, because it's sign language, okay, maybe it's just for some kind of people, and shouldn't really concern us. And another thing you said is that nothing about us without us, which is like I think maybe we can call it like a broad code kind of thing, and that there shouldn't be anything for the deaf community without them really being involved in it. So I think that's also very important for everyone to note. The third thing you mentioned is Nigerian Sign Language should be should be accepted as a second lingua franca. Should be a language that should be accepted for everyone to be able to use freely, and it should be part of the system. There should be a policy that makes this into law, or that makes it something that we can all do. And I think that would be now lead me to the fourth thing you said, which is there's a need for early access to sign language. I think I can't agree less with you on that. There's actually need for that, and that is why we are actually doing this to make sure that we are able to bring everyone in touch, or everyone closer to sign language. But this will lead me to the next session that we'll be having. So I will try to make this as fast as possible, so that possibly we can see end within the time frame that we have for today. There's something about inclusion, and it's important that the journey of inclusion in a society, especially in this part of the world, there's someone who's going to help us to really talk more about the journey. The topic says Nigerian inclusion journey, so far so good. How has it been so far so good? And I think I have known this wonderful gorgeous good looking woman for so long, and I can tell you that she has been driving and speaking and saying everything that when it comes to inclusion. Trust me, we have the best hands to actually speak on this topic today. Please join me to welcome Madam Susan Kelechi as she takes us through this wonderful topic. Nigeria inclusion journey, so far, so good. Madam Susan, you have the floor, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Lekon. Good evening, everyone. So I would like to quickly go straight to the topic, Nigerian inclusion journey, so far, so good. It would be nice also to mention that I am a person with disability. I am a polio survivor. So that when we are talking, we have an understanding that we are talking from a place of lived experience. It's not just because of what is happening, but what we have passed through over the years, which has shaped our engagements and advocacy over the years. Now, for us, first of all, I would like to take the historical perspective, first of all. Over the years, issues of disability had been treated with charity. You know, I saw when Mr. Sheung was talking and when he had to pause, and in my heart, I smiled. You are talking of just one cluster of disability and you are moved this way. When we begin to look, have a holistic approach of what happens around various clusters, you might need to drop a tear. So over the years, there has been this charity approach, but the World Health Organization says 15% of the world's population live with one form of disability or the other. And that tells us, bringing it home to Nigeria, which is what we are looking at, that 15% of the Nigerian population have one form of disability or the other. This is about 31 million persons, as it were. And Nigeria was part of the countries that ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability in 2007 and its optional protocol in 2010. And so over the years, it was a huge struggle. Over 12 years, we were struggling with domesticating it for this large number of persons I have just mentioned. Imagine what it took. Imagine the sweat, the blood across different clusters of disability, including these silent voices, those with mobility impairment, those with albinism, different. Remember, disability is not homogeneous. We have over 8 types of disability that are existing in Nigeria. And so it was a huge barrier because we had attitudinal challenge. People were behaving as if, oh, they were doing us a favor. You know, when they do anything, when there is anything to do for persons with disability, it's easy to see they are sharing wheelchairs, or they just gather you and just do one thing or the other and just disperse us. But that was not the human rights approach, and that was not sustainable over time. Now, thanks to God, in 2019, the Disability Act was passed due to several years of advocacy. It didn't come easy. And when the Disability Act here in Nigeria was passed, we also had a struggle because we continued to sensitize and push so that we have that particular law that has been domesticated to now be implemented. It's a different thing to pass a law. It's a different thing to implement. And it's a different ballgame also to monitor and evaluate to see, is this thing really happening? Yes, we said, for instance, 5% of employment goes to persons with disability. In reality, these laws are beautiful on paper, I keep saying. In reality, is it taking place? We are not saying employ persons with disability because we have a disability. No, we are saying employ qualified persons with disability into different spaces. That has been our concern. And it will interest you to know that of the 36 states and FCT, only 13 states have domesticated this law. And so it goes further to tell you how other states, because I don't think there's any state without persons with disability, how they are struggling to survive because they do not even have laws that protect their rights, whether it's access to health, to economic inclusion, or to whatever you might call it, transportation, name it. Everything is just a struggle. If you think persons without disability struggle daily, then sit down to imagine the struggles of persons with disability. And so for us, we have to look at how to start discussing full inclusion, which is where the issue of the silent voices comes in to play. The inequalities that come to play within the community, where you have, okay, even if you say you have health, how accessible is it? When we're talking of access, a deaf person should be able to go to the health facility and have someone interpret to them. They should be able to get into any gathering, watch their television, and have someone, because they are part of society and should be part of any information that is passed, whether it's on news or wherever. And then again, we look at the regional disparities. You know, what is obtainable in the north is different from what you have in the southwest, in the southeast, and all of that. So in some places, people face triple jeopardy where they are not even able to come out and speak due to cultural biases and what have you. Religious biases as well comes to play. And so it's important that in looking at the Nigerian inclusion journey, we have made progress, I must say, because we are not where we used to be, but a lot needs to be done. Now we have a disability law. It's pertinent that every area, every form of disability is carried along. Now, when Mr. Samuel was speaking, I was just smiling because just before I joined this call, someone called me from Oyo State. And you know, the person who called me was worried there was a case. I'm carrying out a project on gender and disability-based violence. And that's where this silent voices comes in, this disability-based violence. So someone, one of the advocates I trained in Oyo State, called me to say, a lady who is deaf is very, very stubborn. So her people, they are just, her mom is late, her dad is not really interested. So relations are the ones who are, you know, pushing her right, left, and center. And because she's stubborn, they do not actually want to relate with her. Even school, they said because she's quite stubborn, even the special school they had sent her to, they withdrew her and kept her at home. And so my first question was, do they have other kids? And they said yes. And I said, what do they do to other kids? If other kids are stubborn and you tolerate them, then there's something you are doing to this particular child. You have not, as parents, when you have a child, I have seen mothers with children with disability who have tried to learn sign language just because of their children. I have learned a bit of sign language, at least to be able to greet when I see my deaf friend. And you see the smile. It's welcoming for them because they feel they are also, this person understands them because I have learned to greet them in that language. Who says that when my friend who is deaf meets with me, we shouldn't be able to communicate? We should be able to, you know, relate very well. And this was what happened during my years as a volunteer. Okay, let me round off the story of the girl. So I told them, because I have deaf advocates even in Oyo, I told them to link up that particular girl because now they are saying they just want her to get married. And I'm like, what do they mean by? And these are the kind of things you see. By the time they push her into marriage, if that man is maltreating her, they would say, please stay there. At least they have relieved themselves of the burden. They are not looking at the root causes. First and foremost, this is your child before that disability. And so we expect that they bridge that gap. What are they not doing right? There is no communication. This young lady has a lot to say, but no one can communicate with her. The school where she's supposed to learn sign language and communicate, they have also cut ties from her. And these are some of the challenges that gradually they begin to spring forth and become what we know as gender-based violence because nobody's listening. She's talking silently, but nobody's listening. And so it also happened when I was a volunteer. I had a deaf lady. Even the health workers did not know what to do for that lady. And they wanted to chase her. And I said, no, since she can read and write, I'll spare my time and make sure that for every of her clinic, I'll be at the clinic. And so I took it upon myself to write. And so when I write, she reads and she knows what to respond to me. She tells me, this was how we did until her delivery date. I was in the labor room until she gave birth. I kept writing, telling her when they would say she should breathe, she should do this or that. And these are some of the things. If there was a sign language interpreter in that particular place, she would not have any challenge to communicate. And so also other forms of disability, if our spaces are accessible and inclusive, we would not have these challenges. And so for me, what would be the future that we are looking at? Yes, I have talked about the challenges, attitudinal barriers, institutional barriers, and also environmental barriers, you know. So moving forward, what will be the prospect if the Disability Act, which we already have, is implemented? Definitely it will promote equality. Everyone, whether you are deaf, you are a person with physical disability, you are blind, whatever form of disability, would be captured on equal basis and people would not be treated less. Of course, we would also have diversity of perspective. Who knows? Some of the greatest ideas, innovations that we might need to move this country forward might just be in the hand of a person with disability who has been isolated over time, maybe at home, not allowed to have opportunity to socially interact with other persons. And that is where we have this social exclusion. Most times you see persons with disability staying in isolation because people do not actually understand that we have more value to bring to the table. And then economic growth. Imagine if every person with disability at some point starts getting that 5% employment and more persons are employed. Definitely the level of poverty in the community will reduce because persons with disability are said to be the poorest of the poor. Why are they poor? Is it because they do not have skills? No. Is it because they do not have value to bring? Is it because we cannot work? The answer is no. It's just because we do not have equal opportunity with our peers. And then, generally, we would have improved quality of life. When you have improved quality of life,
Madam Susan.
every person with disability doesn't. That's what the SDG says. And if you capture every, yes, hello.
Yeah, please go on. Please go on. We actually lost you for some seconds. Please go on.
Oh, so sorry. I guess it's the network. So I talked about economic growth. These are some of the things that the Disability Act will bring. Economic growth. Persons with disability would have the opportunity on equal basis after studying to get jobs. If you do not want to study and you want to acquire a skill, you'll be able to get soft loans. You'll be able to get loans to run your businesses. Not when people see you, they judge you because they feel you have a disability. And so they feel, oh, you are less human. It happened to me. I was, applying for jobs severally. And once they see me walk in, they look at my crutches, they look at my legs, and they judge me. So think of a person with disability who is deaf. Remember, deafness is an invisible disability. Sometimes people pretend, and because of the people who mimic the deaf people have to keep explaining and explaining themselves that they are deaf because their disability is not one you would see and notice immediately. More importantly, for me, I feel that when we look at the Nigerian inclusion journey, if the Disability Act is fully implemented, persons with disabilities will live a life of dignity based on our human rights, because no matter the form of disability we might have, we are first human beings before our disability. And for me, that is very important if we must make progress in Nigeria as a whole, because inclusion is not just a matter of ethical importance. No, it is very vital for socio-economic, political well-being, because most times you see during politics, they want to gather persons with disability to get our votes. But when it comes to our rights, they do not remember that our rights needs to be met because our votes do not have disabilities. So you need to also meet our rights just like you meet the rights of other persons who do not have disability. And so if we must have political well-being in this society called Nigeria, the Disability Act needs to be implemented. And then when it is implemented, it will create equitable, diverse, and resilient community that is better prepared for various opportunities. No matter the form of disability, we have survived the disability. So our problem is not the disability at this point. Our major challenge would be enabling environment, having to give us same platforms, which is equitable opportunities, just like our peers. Thank you so much.
Wow. Well, I think we need to give Madam Susan a round of applause. Wow, that was wonderful. Wow, thank you so much. I wish we really have enough time. I know you have a lot that you really want to share with us. Like I said before, I brought you up. I said, I have I have known you for so long, and I know when it comes to conversation about inclusion, it's something that you're so passionate about. And in case you don't know, Madam Susan is joining us all the way from Abuja, and he's always been there. So, but you made mention of some things that I think I just want to quickly point out for those maybe they missed it why you said that, why you said them rather. Interestingly, you said 50% of Nigerian population, about 31 million people, have one disability or the other. And I think that when I heard that, I was in shock. I was like, wow, 50% of our population, a whole over 31 million people. Well, another great point you mentioned is you said disability is not homogeneous. So it's not just one thing. So, like you said, you shouldn't look at persons with disability with just one particular, with one eye, like, oh, this is just how disability looks like. It comes in diverse ways. And I think the fact that we are here because of the deaf community shows that beyond the physical, there's also the one that is not physical. Like you also mentioned that the disability of the deaf is not seen, which sometimes makes it like another layer of challenge for them. And I quite agree with you about that, because sometimes people can be misjudged, and people don't get to understand that, oh, even though you're looking handsome, you're looking beautiful, you can walk, you can do everything, and it seems as everything is all right, yet there's one disability somewhere. Like you said there are over 8 disabilities in Nigeria. The disability has been addressed from the angle of pity. And when you said that, I think it really resonates with me that most times we see when we address issues of disability, we treat it from the point of pity instead of treating it as the way it should be. Okay. Pardon me. I'm just trying to just call some of the major things you mentioned. And lastly, I think I'm just going to end on this. The fact that you said in 2019 the Disability Act was passed, but there's a call for implementation and monitor and evaluation. And the fact that only 13 states has domesticated this law. Well, if we keep going on, you said a lot of things that I have to start writing out here. And I must say that it's wonderful to get this conversation with you. Thank you so much. I think we all need to put our heads together and give Madam Susan a round of applause. If you can use the clap emoji, please kindly use the clap emoji, use the love emoji, and all the emojis that you know how to use, just for us to appreciate Madam Susan. Thank you so much. Please, if you have questions, you're free to drop your questions in the comment section. We'll still have another session where we'll be able to open a mic and ask a question in real time. But in case your questions can't wait, please kindly drop them in the chat box. Okay, so we're gonna move straight to the next thing I have on my agenda here, and this is gonna be it's gonna be a panel session, and I have two wonderful women, that will be joining us in this session, and it will be nice for us to know that one of them is a sign language interpreter, and the other person is has hearing impairment. So it's going to be a wonderful conversation. Please join me to welcome. First on my list, I have Madam Vera Uwaje, the founder of Charisma Abilities Foundation, to the panel session. And also to join now this panel session is Madam Treasures Uchegbu. Pardon me because I don't pronounce the name properly. Who is the CEO and convener of Speaking Fingers Network, and I will be the moderator, for this wonderful session. Madam Vera, Madam Treasures, you're welcome. It's nice to have you. Madam Vera, please kindly confirm that you're with us. All right. And Madam Treasures, please also, I would like to hear from you. Kindly confirm you're with us. All right. Okay. So
yeah, I'm with us. I'm with us. I'm with us.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. So today we'll be discussing about the world from the lens of the hearing impaired. The world from the lens of the hearing impaired. And from the conversation that Mr. Samuel took us through, and Miss Susan, there's this intersection between the deaf sign language and the journey of inclusion in Nigeria. Now, we want to understand, how does those who are actually deaf, how do they able see the world? Because we have just about 10% of them in Lagos, and the remaining 90% of us, we can actually relate to how we look at the deaf people. But we're trying to now understand, from what angle does the deaf people actually, from what lens do they look at the world when it comes to understanding them? So I would like to start with Madam Vera first. Can you really share your thoughts, starting with the world from the lens of hearing impairment? How does it look like? Madam Vera.
Years, and initially sign language was often seen as a simplicity form of communication, like the person you are trying to communicate with can just understand. However, as awareness has actually grown, it became evidence that sign language is a complex and complete language on its own, just like every other language. And this shift in perception has actually been profound. It has actually given a profound impact on the deaf community, as it actually made the community strive for inclusion in society. And actually, this has actually led in the increased recognition of linguistic and cultural rights of deaf individuals, paving the way for improved access to education, employment, and participation in various aspects of the society, just like this program that we're having right now. So, sign language is a very it is one good language that has actually impacted persons with deafness, and in a beautiful way, it has helped us be included in matters concerning us and the society.
All right, thank you so much. So I will move to Madam Treasures, and I'm actually going to ask a different question this time around, and I want to ask, how has the perception sorry, pardon me. I have to accept someone. Okay, how has the perception and understanding of sign language, how has it evolved over the years? And what impact specifically, has it had on the deaf community's inclusion in our society? So the perception and understanding of this sign language so far, how has it evolved, so far?
Thank you so very much. The perception of sign language so far, 2018 was the very first International Day of Sign Languages all over globally. And with that, it has provided an identity for our deaf community, especially the young one. I could tell you that a young girl at 10 who's never been to school, we just enrolled her last year, this year, January. And now, by the time I'm seeing her, she's greeting me in sign language. So that has been able to provide an identity. She has a language that she could communicate with. And it has also been able to improve relationship amongst parents because there's awareness, there's an awakening. One of our deaf ambassadors now just had an accident whose both legs had cut into two, so they brought the legs back together. And the caregivers don't even know that the young man has a language that he could communicate with. And so
Wow.
with the awareness, is beginning to provide access to care because now they are able to sign sorry by the time he's crying. Last week we had him have some books and resources because it's his leg that is having issues, not the brain. So now he could read, he could be able to write difficult words because he's going to be there for 3 months. So caregivers, so it has provided a platform for people to be closer, much more closer. And when you talk about economic improvement, there's an awareness and awakening that deaf persons can also do business because you have a language to be able to interact. They can add value to our economy. So, and like even in healthcare. So what is happening is that with the beauty of a language, and sign language as it were in this time, it has provided access. And we are not yet where we used to be, like Madam Susan had mentioned. And thank you for that lovely message again, as always. But we are not where we ought to be. So it's a work in progress. And one more thing I want to really do, like my sister has just mentioned, is to thank you, Silent Voices, for taking the time out and everyone that has been on the call to say, look, we are here because we are going to carry this message. Like I always say, commemorative days are not days for long speeches. It's a day where we come fired up and we go back to continue the advocacy. So it's been work in progress. And thank God now that we are looking at it from the perspective of human rights. Like George Grace said, that inclusion is not a privilege for few, but it is a human right for everyone. And when everyone is included, the truth is that we all win. So for me, I would say it's been a work in progress, and it requires a multi-stakeholder approach from you and I. Like SDG 17 talks about partnership. No one institution, no one individual, no one government parastatal can do it. It will take our collective effort and to leave no one behind, including the deaf community. And now I could say, thank God we have a language to communicate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. That last statement or phrase, I'm not sure of the right English word to use for it. Sometimes English can fail me. That word, inclusion, is not a privilege for few, but human rights for everyone. Wow. I think it's important that we
It's by George Gray.
I'm going to sing it out to you for you to let. I don't spell the name wrong. Okay, so I'm going to quickly move to Madam Vera, and the question I'll be asking you now can be somewhat personal, to you, because I want you to actually share personal experience with us. And this is because I'm made to understand that you share. I'm trying to look for the more diplomatic way to really put it, but permit me in case I'm unable to really put it the way I should put it very well. I'm made to understand that you share some levels of hearing impairment. And my question now is, I want you to share with us, personal experiences, or stories, that highlight the challenges faced by individuals with hearing impairment. What are the challenges that, from your own personal experience, you think, oh, it's going to be like a general principle or something that happens to every other persons with hearing impairment, or probably even those who are deaf? It might be on education, might be on employment, might be issues of governance, whatever angles that you think they face these challenges. Can you please share with us? Thank you so much.
Very much for the question. From my own personal experience, I'll be starting with my education. Actually, I wasn't born deaf, and I have had two accidents so far in life that actually resulted to my hearing, loss. And the first accident actually happened in my primary school. Just out of childishness, if I wasn't childish as a child, maybe I wouldn't have had an accident. I was already done with school. I was supposed to go home, but I decided to go and buy ice cream, and that was how I had an accident. And this actually started the hearing loss, as it was actually my hearing started decreasing gradually, and before you know it, I actually say, my partner, I'll say, hey, what did you say? And it's kind of made it look as if I was forming. Actually, that was how people saw it in my home. They saw it as one naughty girl trying to grow up to be snobbish. But and in the society, my friends saw it as one Lagos girl, because I was in Delta State. They saw it as one Lagos girl trying to form Lagos babe for them in Delta State. Because I was always saying, sorry, what did you say? What did you say? So this was kind of making them look as if, who is this one? She's trying to act social or something. But later on, when I got into my secondary school, it affected my academic performance, because when I was in primary school, I was doing so well. And the older I grow, the lower my hearing, the lower my hearing reduces. So this actually called for the concerns of the family. Like my dad was like, this is not really acting snobbish, and started looking for a solution. Okay, now in the education sector, back to the question, in the education sector, my academic reduced, as in I started performing poorly academically, because then I never knew anything about deaf school or something. No, we don't know anything about deafness, and my family never knew that there was anything like deaf school, and even myself, so I don't know anything about that. So my dad continued my education in the regular school, and I was always sitting in front. And some people find it difficult to believe that I have hearing issues, because my speech is still very much intact, and so they find it difficult to believe. So it was a challenge for me, because even if I try to tell you that, so sorry, I can't hear you well, it still look as if I'm lying, or as if I'm forming or something. So it's ridiculous actually. Then coming to workplace. When I finished my university, I was going for my NYSC. I had another accident that actually made the hearing loss worse. And at this time, I cannot hear as I could hear before. And it actually made issues worse for me, because even though my voice wasn't just going with the hearing, it wasn't going with the hearing. It was still making it unbelievable for people to believe that I have hearing loss. So now in the workplace, when I finished my university and after my NYSC, the accident happened and everything, I started applying for interviews. Now this is where the problem is. When I will pass this test, the whole test process, the whole interview, the whole screening process, I'll pass everything. But once it's now time for one-on-one interview, man, if I should just get to that seat like this, and I start saying, sorry, please, I can't hear you, please. Oh, if I will introduce myself, after I introduce myself, I will add that, please, I have a little hearing loss, so please, if I don't hear you very well. Once I don't say that, it's as if I've scattered everything, because the next thing is they'll just ask me a question or two, so it doesn't look as if there's no question for me at all. After that, I already know that my name is already on the blacklist, so there's no need. I'll just try my best. So I have never gone for any interview. So the fact is that I have never gone for any interview and tell them that I have a hearing loss and get called back. I have never. And I can tell you that
Wow.
I have gone for about 10 to 15 interviews within the last 10 years, but I haven't been able to get a job. So thank God for myself, thank God for my drive and my industrial spirit. I was able to do something on my own, and that was how I came up with my school, Charisma Inclusive School, and Charisma Abilities Foundation. So you see, from my personal experience, persons with hearing loss are actually going through a lot, and not just persons with deafness, because it's easy for you to identify a deaf person that does not have the voice. But for someone like me that have the voice, man, even if I would say I don't get, sometimes I just do, I just want to save myself from stories. I don't really enjoy the benefits that my fellow deaf persons are enjoying, like the free reality access. Sometimes if I don't have stories and demonstration or get angry, I cannot have that access. So I just have to do something to show them that truly I'm deaf before I can be allowed, just because of my voice. And I have refused to lock my voice myself because I want to ask them. So this is
Yeah.
I just have to use my voice and at the same time
Yeah.
let them know I have a hearing loss. So that's
Wow.
my own
Wow.
personal.
This experience you just shared, I must say it's almost kind of knocked me off my feet right now, because I just, how do I put this now? When we started the Silent Voices project, during the time when we were shooting the documentary, and someone said something that actually struck me so hard. She said, what if we decide to go through the line of health, that not majority of those who are probably deaf or have hearing impairment, we're not born deaf. So it's not like, oh, someone just fall down from heaven and the person just landed and the person just became deaf. And sharing this story right now, I just kept asking myself, okay, what could have happened? Probably if we had a more structured and a more I don't know. I'm kind of short of words to use now. Maybe if our health system, was strong enough to be able to really provide the right kind of health system that was needed, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But I'm still going to ask you this question before I come back to Madam Treasures. And my question is there any way you've actually made use of technology, or maybe how do you think technology, can be um, useful in actually helping to manage some of these challenges that you've actually mentioned? Madam Vera, the question is still to
Okay.
you actually. I don't know if probably if you've explored any
Technology
technological
has
tools,
actually.
or
I'm so
if there's
glad
any
that.
way you
Can you
think
hear me?
technology can help in this regard.
Can you hear me? Okay. Um, Technology has
Yes, I can hear
actually
you, but
helped the
we would
person
like
with
to see that your beautiful face
disability
actually.
because for instance,
Oh,
now before Bio came in and before Mr. Samuel actually volunteered to sign for us, I was actually looking for the caption, and that's part of what I translate from speech to text. And these are then we also have various places like in the hospital. Although I'm still sign language interpreters do their job, the sign language, the advancement of sign language interpreters. I was saying that part of what technology has done for us is that it has actually made available speech to text assistive devices. Then we also have hearing aids that actually help me that I use sometimes. Sometimes I use my hearing aid, although we have a lot of fake hearing aids in Nigeria. They sell amplifiers. Amplifiers to help sometimes, but it's still okay to manage, but hearing aids is actually best. So the amplifiers, the hearing aid, both of them are part of what technology has done for us. Then we also have the sign language interpreters, they are like the manual technology. So I really want to say that these are the things that technology has done for us in terms of helping persons with deafness. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Vera. So I'll come to you now, Madam Treasure. So we are rounding up with this session already, so that we are able to stay close within the set time for this particular call. So my question to you, Madam Treasures, is that okay? Sorry, 1 minute. Okay. Okay, yeah. So my question is, how can communities, and organizations, how can they collaborate, to promote sign language education and ensure that it's accessible, to everyone who wants them, because one of the things, you mentioned earlier is that sign language has actually provided accessibility. And yeah, even though Mr. Sam also kind of confirmed that word, but it seems as though it hasn't really gotten to everyone yet. And one of the reasons why we're actually doing this right now for our Silent Voices NG is also to make sure that we're able to bring about that awareness and also make it accessible. So, but my question specifically is, how do you think, communities and organizations, we have ASLIN, we have South Africa, we have Carrington Fellowship, we have Speaking Fingers, we have Charisma Foundation, and a whole lot of organizations out there and communities, how can we collaborate, to promote sign language education to ensure that it is more accessible, for everyone to learn? Madam Treasure.
Thank you very much for that beautiful question. Yes, I mentioned earlier that goal 17 of the Sustainable Development Goal, which is like a to-do list of world leaders, like the UN General Assembly is going on now. It talks about partnership. Yeah. So no one singular organization can do it. So even though we are working in silos, we are doing our things in different silos, we must embrace collaboration. I mean collaboration, unified collaboration. However, we must also understand that there are distinct things that we are doing. For me, even though I sign, I love what Bayo is doing here by interpreting. I would love that my sign language is defined by the life skill and life development program that I run for deaf teenagers, which provides them access to information and all that. And we must understand, like the T-shirt Bayo is wearing, another foundation, another organization is talking about arts, then it is where we celebrate the different diverse ways we are using sign language to be able to reach the deaf population. By so doing, we are all lifting ourselves. But when it comes to a commemorative day like this, we are all coming together to add value, which is each and everybody doing what it is that they're doing, bringing their A game on board. I'm privileged to also have a renowned foundation in the person of Sir Albert Fadun on this call, whose foundation, Bishop Age Foundation, encourages ecumenism, which means a collaboration of everyone working, irrespective of our religion, irrespective of our culture, irrespective of whatever credence or creed that we share. However, we are bringing everything together, harnessing it. So it is time we come together to harness these resources to be able to say, look, this is with one voice we are speaking to say, we want a world where deaf persons, where deaf people everywhere can sign anywhere, which also include us as Nigerians, as Africans, learning how to sign. So we are speaking in one voice. So when we leave this set that Silent Voices has created for us, we go back and say, we all agreed that we want a Nigeria where everyone can sign. So wherever platform or whatever platform I'm doing to be able to create that awareness, if I see a Mr. Lekon, Olamilekon Lawal, he's giving me thumbs up, and he's also coming to do what? To encourage and to cheer and say, oh, if I see my sister Vera doing whatever she's doing, I'm saying, oh, how can I be able to help? By so doing, we are building a community. You have lit up the fire like Silent Voices have done now. We are all running together and saying, together, we will achieve so much. However, working in different silos, if there need to be, because we are all unique in our different callings, and we are all unique in the ways that we want to express this sign language. And the truth is that diversity makes it all beautiful, because we see it that it brings us closer to the goal, or achieving what it means, what the goal is, which is everybody learning how to sign, or everybody can sign. So I thank you, Silent Voices. That's a bit of what I could offer now. Thank you. Hello, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me? Please,
yes.
if you can hear me. Oh,
there was a glitch earlier.
Oh, okay. Network. God will save us from network, actually. Yeah, so I said thank you so much for the time, for making that. That was so profound. And I was going to ask one last question before we start taking questions from everyone. And I would like you to just you start, and we'll close with Madam Vera before we make the room open for people to ask their questions or make recommendations. Now, a world where everyone can sign. That is the theme for this year's International Day of Sign Language. What do you think the world is right now? Like, can we say, a significant percentage of the world population can sign right now? If yes, how did we get there? And if no, what is the possibility for us to really get to that level where a significant number of the world population can sign? I'm going to close on that question. Madam Treasure first, then we get to Madam Vera.
Yes, it starts with the willingness, the will, because where there's a will, there's a way. We heard what Madam Vera started with, that when it happened that she needed to, she encouraged herself to start. So it starts with the will. It starts with the interest, developing interest. And where there's no interest, it starts with somebody igniting that interest. Like where I'm seated now, I came in here as a deaf person, and I signed to them. It's actually a reception of MFM, and I sat there. So at first the woman was like, so the moment she brought a biro and paper, and I told her, look, I have a call and this is what I want to achieve. And she was excited to see that, she's also contributing. So first off, it starts with us going out there to be able to step our feet out, to get our hands dirty, where we are all willing to say, look, I'm going to be a crusader. I'm going to start this process of ensuring that everyone signs. I won't always forget to let us know that we are not yet where we ought to be, where everyone is signing. But every day, one person at a time, one place at a time, we can all make contributions to be able to say, you can sign this. And because we gesturize as Africans and as Nigerians, how about making our gesture very meaningful? So by so doing, we can begin to create that world. And taking statistics, we must not forget and say, where are we? Where is the baseline? So Silent Voices is also your call. And say, what baseline do we have? I'm trusting maybe Madam Vera or Madam Susan can have, what's the baseline? What is the knowledge so far? And so that we can talk statistically, so we can measure when we come back in 2024 like this, in this gathering of sign language champions or an advocate, we can say, I was able to reach 50 people. I was able to reach one person. I was able to reach 100 people. So it starts with the will and the commitment to say, I want to reach that one person a day, a place, and a time. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Madam Vera, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to kind of direct it in different manner. when so while I was preparing for this particular session, I discovered that there are over 300 sign language these sign languages. I don't know if that's the right word for it in the world. Over 300 sign languages in the world. And like Madam Treasure said now, naturally for us here in this part of the world, just in fact, you can see the way I'm even talking, even though I'm not signing, my hands are moving, my body is moving and everything. So even if you can't, probably I was not audible enough, one way or the other, you can see the fact that, oh, this guy is demonstrating something. Now the question now is, I might find it difficult to want to learn the Nigerian sign language, the American sign language, this sign language, the server sign language. I can't really tell the sign language Mr. Bayo is using right now. But is there a way that we can I think I read that there's a universal sign language. Is there a way that we are able to probably, we're able to spotlight that universal sign language in a way where it makes it possible for more people to be able to sign, so that I do not just learn Nigerian sign language, and when I find myself in Canada, I find myself in Togo, I'm able to still communicate, because it now becomes a barrier, even though I've learned sign language in Nigeria. So how do you think, even with this sign language, we can unify it in a way where more people, more population of the world, or let's say maybe we'll start with Nigeria, are able to really learn sign language? I don't know if my question is clear. Madam Treasure, my question is not clear. Yes, sorry, Madam Vera. Yes, Madam Vera.
Yeah, the question is not clear. Please ask again, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay, so my question is, there are over 300 sign languages in the world. And I know I've read that there's a part where it says there's a universal sign language, right? Which, whether you are using American sign language or Nigerian sign language or British sign language or whichever, you are still able to communicate. So my question is, how can we harness this universal sign language in a way whereby either I'm in Nigeria, I'm in Togo, I'm in Canada, wherever I find myself, I'm still able to communicate in sign language? And how can this really help us to make a larger population of the world to really use sign language? I hope it's clear now.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. In sign language, we actually have American Sign Language, we have British Sign Language, we have Nigerian Sign Language, and French Sign Language, and many more. We even have Hausa Sign Language. Okay, now,
wow,
when you arrive in a country unknown to you as a deaf person, you first try to find out, just like every other countries, majorly we have English and French as the two basic official languages that are being used in the world today. So now in the deaf community, we also have American Sign Language, which is ASL, as the official sign language, alongside with British Sign Language. These are the two popular sign language that we have worldwide as a universally, just the same way we have English and French. Now, as a deaf person, it is important that you understand American Sign Language and British Sign Language if you are willing and ready to go all over the world, so that when you arrive in a country that English language is being appreciated as the official sign language, there will definitely be a sign language interpreter that understands American Sign Language or British Sign Language. By understanding this as a deaf person and having interpreter that understands one of these two official sign language, then communication gap can also be bridged in such a country. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So finally, your last word for us to close this session. In your last word, in like 30 seconds, your last word, Madam Vera, I'm going to start from you before I go to Madam Treasure. Your last word in 30 seconds for this session.
Okay, my last word, first of all, is to my fellow deaf person, is that we should strive as much as possible to fill the communication gap. We shouldn't relax on the fact that the community is not inclusive, and so there's nothing that can be done. As a person with deafness, myself, even before I learned sign language, I have this habit of going out with pen and paper so that if I come across anybody that I cannot really communicate with, or maybe the person cannot hear me, maybe I cannot hear the person very well, and the person too is also having my kind of challenge, like hearing loss, I normally use pen and paper to communicate with the person. So as a deaf person, we should put on the habit, or we should put on we should be inclusive ourselves. We should learn inclusion, because sometimes the communication gap has made us lost some opportunity. So we should strive for inclusion by all means. We should try to make sure that communication takes place irrespective of the challenges of the society. So we should also, inclusion begins with us, okay? It begins with us. Then to the outer community there, that is the hearing community, we should also try to embrace sign language. It's actually a beautiful language. Me, I call it, at first, when what attracted me to sign language is the codedness of the language. Like, I can keep quiet and say something, and another person that does not understand what I'm saying, we now know what I'm talking about. So that was what actually attracted me to sign language. Actually, it's a coded and a beautiful language to learn. If anybody out there have the opportunity to learn the language, I will advise the person to learn it, because myself as a deaf person, when I started learning sign language, I actually paid to learn sign language, and I'm actually proud that it is something that I learned. So if you get the opportunity to learn sign language, be it paid or free, please embrace it with your whole heart, because it's a beautiful language actually. And I'm one of those that is actually striving and praying that sign language should one day be an official language in Nigeria, so that people come and beg me to learn. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much. That was profound. The fact that, like you said, the fact that you can be somewhere and you can even converse with someone codedly and people do not even understand what you are saying. Wow, I think that is even that is one treasure, that people should even get to know sign language. So thank you so much, Madam Treasure. Yes, I just said the word treasures, and I'm coming back to you, Madam Treasure. So your last statement or phrase for this session.
See, Mr. Leko, I'm going to find you with this my treasure. You are removing my S. It's treasures.
Yeah, follow the treasure.
So for me, two things I want us to know. First off, is that sign language is not follow-come. Some people think that when deaf persons, when someone becomes deaf, that he or she automatically, sign language just falls. I've had that conversation, and I've heard people say that. So sign language is learned, sign language is taught, and like Madam Vera has admonished us, we can learn it and it can also be taught. So deaf community, get ready to teach everyone, aside carrying your biros and papers along as you want to converse. Be friendly enough to be able to at least provide that initial hunger for people to also want to learn it. So it's not follow-come. I want the world to know this. And secondly, I would like that we stop stigma, the kinds of discriminations that young deaf persons suffer, the issue of putting leaf in the mouth. Fewe said no in this part of our world, because we are also in Nigeria, is prevalent. And I asked what eats leaf. They were goats. They tell me goats, they tell me snail, they tell me ants, they tell me cow. Today I got cow in a sexual reproductive health training that I had. You have cow. So who wants to be called a goat? So now the deaf community, I've told them they should cut leaf. When you see somebody, don't pursue them, because these are the things that fuel that deaf people are angry people. They are violent people. No. the community itself, the environment itself fuels such, but we don't encourage that. So however, I tell them, cut more leave and serve it back to that person so that you don't pursue them and get angry. So self-advocacy is also key for the deaf community, as I also admonish the hearing, to stop stigma and discrimination, to stop those kinds of attitudinal challenges that we have. And with sign language, the truth is everyone is included. So I'm trusting that we'll build a world where everyone signs, starting with our immediate community. And I want to say a big thank you to Silent Voices and everyone that has been on this call, especially from the keynote to Madam Susan, who I miss so much, so very much, to Mr. Bayo, interpreters, you play a key role. You play a key role, you are a major part. So interpreters should be well remunerated, well appreciated, and also recognized, because oftentimes they are always the last set of people to know that they had made that communication possible in an event. I've been in events where people finish and no one is recognizing or appreciating. I know that won't happen in our call, but however, and we should seek collaboration. So that's my closing point. Collaboration, partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I can't hide my excitement.
Thank you so much. Well, it's obvious, you've always been like this, and I'm not surprised actually. Yeah, and thank you so much. It's really a wonderful session. Thank you, Madam Vera. Thank you so much, especially for sharing your personal experience with us. Thank Mr. Bayo. Yes, thank Mr. Bayo for being there and doing the thing for us. I reached out to Mr. Bayo like 9 minutes, and he said, "Don't worry, I'm going to do this." And I felt like crying when he said I'll be here to do that. So thank you so much. Yeah, so please, the floor is open for us in case we have questions. If you have any questions, please, you can use you see this reaction button. When you click on the reaction button, you will see raise hand. So you can use that to signify that you have a question to ask, so that I can give you the microphone. It might be question, it might be maybe opinion or recommendation. Like briefly, our time is fast spent, so that we can close this in like a few minutes time. Any question? I know I personally have asked a lot of questions already, so I won't be surprised if there are no questions, because I'm sure we've probably exhausted all the possible questions that we might have today. But in case I missed something out, rather, or probably you have something, maybe like a burning question you really want to ask, please, you can signify, or maybe I can just say, you can just unmute yourself and get speaking. I know I think I can. Someone is unmuted. Mr. or Mrs. Pardon me. I don't want to assume the name. Simon Dixon. You're muted. In case you have a question, please speak. If not, can I just mute you? All right. So you're okay. Okay. Any other question? Okay. I think I cannot see any hand. Okay, I think there's something in the chat box. Okay, just okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Solu. So pardon me, pardon me because I'm not calling your what's it called, your initials, either Mr., Mrs., Doctor. Pardon me, I just go with the name I can say. I mean no disrespect actually. All right, so the last thing before we close this session, so I think I have two things, but the two of them will be very, very fast. Now I want to quickly share with us. When Madam, I'm used to calling her Madam actually, Madam Treasure. So when she was closing our session, she said the need for us to collaborate. Collaboration, which speaks a lot about the SDG Goal 17, which talks a lot about working together for the goal. So I'm just going to quickly take us through. I'll try to be very, very fast with this. So Silent Voices NG, like Shenfumi said earlier, is actually a project that actually started from the Carrington Youth Fellowship, which is an initiative of the U.S. Consulate, where myself, Shenfumi, and 3 other great young minds, came together and initiated the project. And we did it for about a year. we run the project, did some activities, and even carried out a training, 8 weeks training, on the project. I just want to quickly share with us some of the great results that we were able to achieve through this project, and that will lead me to the next thing which I'll be talking about, which is the way forward, for the project, and where we think it will be lovely for us to have every one of us, be part of it. Okay, so some of the major outcomes that we recorded, and outcomes and success stories that we recorded at the course of this project is interestingly we have Madam Doki, Madam Fatima Abubakar Doki here, who was a virtual participant, the Silent Voices project in Jigawa, and she made us know that now through the Silent Voices project, she was able to now communicate, effectively with one of our children who is actually who has hearing impairment. Now, as the course of the project, she was able to gain the skill that made it easy for her now to even be able to communicate with our child. The second thing is we have 2 representatives of the civil society organizations, who attended the sign language, where they also cascaded the training to other members of their staff, in the organization, which was a very good one for us. Also, a participant at the sign language training, joined the sign language interpreter group in our church, which is specifically the Apostolic Faith Church, Lagos here, so as to also practice and also interpret for the deaf in our church. Also, another representative of another CSO organization who participated in the 8 weeks training, now at the point also served, as a sign language interpreter during one of their organization programs, with persons with disability, and she was able to do that at that she was able to pass through our sign language training. Also, okay, so a participant also another representative of another civil society organization who passed through the 8 weeks training also became the bridge in helping other colleagues, in our organization to communicate with another deaf colleague that they have in that organization. So she was able to now become that bridge whereby other staff reach out to her, and through her, she's able to also help them communicate with that deaf people. So that's the goal of the project is to bridge that communication gap, and I think that has been done already, through that particular act. Also, 80% of participants, when we carried out, so after the project, we carried out our post-training, post-training assessment. And interestingly, 80% of the participants who attended the 8 weeks training, they showed, I'm sorry, let me just read what I have it here. 80% of participants continued with personal training by consistently, watching the replay video. So 80% of our participants showed that they've also been going back to the YouTube videos that we uploaded. So the sessions that we uploaded on YouTube, they were also going back to the YouTube video to watch it so as to increase their their skill in sign language, more like having personal training, and which is good for us because we don't have to directly, kind of influence them. They have to go back there by themselves to do that. And that was very impressive for us. Now, when we had our M&E, where we carried out our M&E on three major things that we're trying to get from our M&E, which is the knowledge of participants. Now, it's my interest to know that before the training, 46.3% of our participants have poor knowledge of sign language, while 22.5% are not even sure of their knowledge of sign language, and only 31% have fair knowledge of sign language. However, after the training, it will be interesting to know that only 30% have poor knowledge, which is a 33.3% reduction in the number of those who do not have any knowledge at all. 36.2% at that point also do not have they're actually not sure of their knowledge. And it will be interesting to know that 50.7% of our participants now have better knowledge of sign language, resulting in 19.5% increase in the knowledge level of participants on sign language through the Silent Voices, through the Silent Voices NG project. Also, we measured the attitude of participants. Before the training, 16.3% of participants have poor attitude to sign language and deaf people. And 27.5% of them are not sure of their attitude to sign language and deaf people. And 56.3% of them had pure knowledge of okay, I think I missed that up somewhere. Okay, but however, we had a major shift. 4.3% after the training, 4.3% now have poor knowledge of sign language, which led to like 12% reduction in the number of those who have poor knowledge. 11.6% are not sure, and 84%. This is interesting. 84% of our participants now have better understanding and better attitude to sign language and deaf people, which resulted to about 27.7% increase in the participants who now have better attitude to sign language and deaf people. And lastly, the last part we mentioned is the practice of sign language. So before the training, 31% of our participants do not practice sign language at all. 21.3% are not sure about it, while 43.8% are able to practice sign language. But however, after the training, 30% we now have 13% who did not practice sign language before, which led to a 22.1% reduction. 42% still are not sure, and we had 44.9% of our participants who are now practicing sign language, which led to a 1.1 increase in the number of those who are practicing. Now, quickly, after the training, 89.9% of our participants are willing to take up another sign language class to advance their skills. And that was one interesting thing for us. We were very, very, very happy that a lot of them showed interest, and why 10% of them still were not sure yet whether to go on with it or not. Our training recorded over 400 participants who joined the sign language training, and that was at 1,900% increase, as against the initial plan for just 20 youths to take part in this training. And second to the last thing, the training spread across 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria, covering 27 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. So the training cut across Lagos, Nasarawa, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, Oyo, Plateau, Rivers, Zamfara, Abia, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Borno, Delta, Ebonyi, Enugu, Edo, Ekiti, Gombe, Imo, Kaduna, Kano, Kogi, Kwara, and Federal Capital Territory. 27 states, which wasn't what we even planned. The project was planned for just Lagos State alone, for just 20 persons, but it moved beyond just Lagos and just 20 people to be almost 400. Now we have a network, and I'm sure a lot of us belong to that network, of over 400 members from that group. And that is like a community of practice that we're using to kind of engage people. And lastly, the establishment of a virtual network, like I said now, for the project, which is the community of practice, house over 400 members, consisting of participants of the sign language class, deaf people, and sign language interpreters. So we have Mr. Bayo, we have Madam Treasures, we have Mr. Sam, we have Mrs. Vera, we have Madam Doki, yes, we have Madam Adeyinka Dabibi, and a whole lot of other people, on that particular group, which is like a community of practice where we kind of, engage ourselves better, about about sign language, and also encourage ourselves more. So, with all this said and done, let me not even forget the fact that we had a documentary, which, in case you've not seen that documentary, you can go to YouTube and search for Silent Voices, full documentary. We have a whole about 1 hour documentary, which was done on this project. And I can tell you that when you watch that documentary, your heart will be melted. Actually, your heart will be melted. Yeah, and pardon me, one last thing I think I need to also mention, that the demography of our participants were actually 71% female and 29% male. And 61% of our participants were between the age of 18 to 35, meaning we had 61% who were actually young people, while 39% were actually 35 people and above. So I can't actually exhaust this. These are like some of the great results we were able to achieve at the first phase of this project. Like I said, I'm using the word first phase because now we are entering another phase. Initially, it was funded by Carrington Youth Fellowship through the U.S. government, and but as it is, we've graduated from the project. We've graduated. We are now full fellows of sci-fi. But we thought about it that we can't look at these great results, that we've recorded through this project and just trash them and say, all right, so we are done with the fellowship. Silent Voices is done. So we thought about it. Okay, how can we continue with this project? How can we sustain this good result, this great outcome that we've recorded on this project, and take it further in a way where we can push beyond this and we can achieve more than this. And so this call is kind of also opening that room for us, because we are actually looking out for, so personally, I run an organization that is called South Africa Initiative for Youth Development. It's a youth-focused non-profit. And my other colleague, Sean Fumi, also runs an organization, MTAO. So we actually kind of working together, and we have reached out to ASLIN, and I'm sure we'll still be reaching out to some of us. I know Madam Doki works with the government. I know she wants to mention that at a point. So we'll reach out to you also. And we'd like to see how we can all partner together. Like this closing statement of Madam Treasures, partner together. Possibly form a what's it called? A consortium. Is it a consortium? Or form a cluster, I think that's the right word. Form a cluster around this project. We've probably benefited from the project, or we probably contributed to the project. And I'm sure that at this junction, we would want to see the project continue to probably get far beyond what we've recorded. We probably even make it a nationwide project whereby more people across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory can be part of the project. And that is where we are driving this project to, at the second phase. Yes, initially we had an 8 weeks training, which was just basic sign language training. But we are looking at taking it to an advanced level, whereby we can have those who have gone through the free basic class can also advance their skill, so that when we meet in 2024 like this, we are able to have more people. So Mr. Bayo, who has been a facilitator before, won't have to come sign for us like this. We would have someone, maybe Madam Doki or Madam Dabiri, would be the one to do the signing for us that time. I can see Madam Dabiri smiling. Yes, and that would be the goal. By that time, you are strong enough to say, yes, I'm going to sign for the next session. Or probably Madam Dabiri in our own workplace can organize. I think Madam Dabiri, I can't remember the state, maybe Osun State or so. And I know she has a granddaughter at the point there who also, if you check the documentary, you see her granddaughter also showed us a sign language skill. Maybe at that point, we can begin to spread. There will be like a ripple effect for this project, beyond just Lagos, beyond just me, beyond just sci-fi, beyond just US consulate. And that will be the sustainability plan for the project for the next phase. So we'll be sharing with us how we're progressing with the project. Yes, Madam Dabi from Abuja. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, and we are planning some things. We are planning to see how we can kind of like create like a mini fellowship for this project, whereby people can come on board as kind of fellowship and can even engage in other community engagement. But the way we have been empowered from sci-fi, and we have done this, we are looking at how can we even create like a mini fellowship out of this, to see how more people can also go back and engage with the deaf community, probably in their state. Maybe like having like one person per state, form a fellowship whereby one person per state, and they can go back to their state and probably cascade some of the things that we have done through sci-fi. And don't worry, we still get to know more about this. We're also looking at to probably a time where we can maybe do like a visit, maybe to like deaf schools, to like deaf schools, maybe like engage them, or even go to federal. I think Mr. Olaoluwa will help me out. I know when we did the documentary, we remember that Mr. Olaoluwa, Mr. Sam, Miss Victoria, and Mrs. Tijani, who were our sign language instructors, all passed through the federal, what's it called? Federal College of Education, Special Oyo. I don't know if I'm right with that name, Mr. Bayo. Am I right with that name? All right, thank you. Yes. yes, Federal College of Education, Special Oyo. So we are looking at how we can let's even go back. Let's go and pay a visit to that school. Let's see how the maybe the college of where they teach them sign language. How does it look like? Probably we want to do another documentary about the school. You get so we have a lot of things that we're actually planning together on this second phase, and we would like you to join us on this in whichever way possible, either as participants, either as partners, whichever way we'll call on you. And I'm sure ASLIN is also going to be with us full flesh, to lead this. So with that said and done, I don't know if there are probably questions or contributions that I think can help us out on this. I would like to really hear from us. We can unmute to if you want to speak. Maybe you have suggestions for us, contributions. I know Madam Treasures mentioned the name Mr. Albert. Mr. Albert, I know you said something about him, and I'm sure he also heard me, and I'm sure that probably we'll be able to find a way to work together on this, like partner together to take this far beyond what we've started, and that will be very, very good for us. So I don't know if there are questions or recommendations. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks, sir, for the thumbs up, Sahaba. Thank you so much for the thumbs up. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, any questions, any recommendations or suggestions for us? We are finally at the last part of this call. Anyone, any comments, any suggestions? Okay. All right. I think we've said a lot already today, and as a way of closing this session, I want to say thank you so much. By the way, I did not introduce myself when I started. All right, so I am Gio Lawa. Okay, my full name is Ganio Olamide Kolawa, but most times I like to be called Gio Lawa, not a general overseer, but just Gio Lawa for short. And I am a fellow of the Carrington Youth Fellowship. Madam Church, why you laughing? Of the Carrington Youth Fellowship, and also the founder and team lead of South Africa Initiative for Youth Development. And also by the side, I'm also a social tech, innovator. I also run a social tech company called Co-op Solutions, where we use technology to help solve societal challenges. So you see, everything about me is about social development, actually. Yeah, so that's me. That's me. Thank you so much. By way of closing the remark, I say thank you everyone for your time, for creating that time out of your busy schedule, to be here with us today. We do not take this for granted. Thank you, Mr. Samuel, the chairman of Association of Sign Language Interpreters of Nigeria, Lagos chapter. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you. Thank you, Madam Treasures, CEO, Speaking Fingers Network. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for those profound insights you shared with us today. Thank you, Madam Vera Uwaje, founder, Charisma Abilities Foundation. Thank you for sharing your personal experience with us. I must say it really means a lot to us, to hear from you today. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Thank you, Madam Susan Kelechi. Yes, all the way from Abuja also. A strong woman, it's not one strong woman whose disability has not been a disability to her. She's always thriving everywhere. Thank you so much for answering our call. Thank you, Mr. Bayo. Thank you, Mr. Bayo, for accepting to be our sign language interpreter for today. And to every other person, may not be able to call our name. Yes, to my colleague Sean Fumi, I want to thank you. I say thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you for joining us on this call. Please, even though today is International Day of Sign Language, I'm going to close by saying that the commemoration of this day should not end today. Yes, today is ending already. It's 7:51 p.m. Nigerian time here, or West African time. It should not be, the end of today should not be the end of our advocacy for an awareness for sign language. Rather, it should be the beginning. This call should be the beginning and that drive for us to push for that world where everyone, where you and I, where our sons, our daughters can sign. Even if sign language is not yet accepted as a lingua franca, or it's not yet made a law, it's not yet made a language by law officially, but yet we all can in unofficial way take sign language to be accepted as another language, just as we have taken English, French, Spanish, and whatsoever. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, bye, everyone. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Uncle Al, thanks for coming, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So